The story, The Potter's Journey to Inner Peace. Have you ever felt overwhelmed by anger or anxiety? Unable to control your emotions? Life's challenges and pressures can leave our minds in chaos. But did you know the power to stay calm lies within you? In today's video, we'll explore the power of not reacting and learn how to master your emotions through profound Buddhist teachings. Imagine if you could face every difficult situation with calmness and clarity. How would that transform your life? Join us as we embark on a journey to rediscover peace and inner strength with simple yet effective methods you can apply today. Folded hands. Lesson 1: Living in the present. In a small village nestled beside a peaceful river, there lived a potter named Lam. He was well known for crafting exquisite pottery, each piece a masterpiece of skill and precision. However, Lam's inner life was far from serene. He was often overwhelmed by anger and anxiety, which disrupted his work and strained his relationships. One day, while working on a beautiful vase, Lam accidentally broke it after weeks of painstaking effort. A surge of frustration engulfed him, and he lashed out, throwing his tools across the workshop. Staring at the shards of pottery on the floor, he felt an overwhelming sense of helplessness. It wasn't just about the broken vase. It was as though something deep within him was fractured too. A fateful encounter. In his despair, Lam decided to seek help. He had heard of a wise monk who lived in a mountain monastery nearby. Known for his ability to guide people toward inner peace, determined to find answers, Lam set out on a challenging journey up the mountain. After hours of climbing, he finally arrived at the small, tranquil temple. The monk greeted him with a serene smile and invited him to sit. Lam shared his struggles, speaking of his uncontrollable anger, relentless anxiety, and the chaos they brought into his life. The monk listened intently and then said, "Stay here for a few days. I will teach you a new way to live, one that will bring you peace." The first lesson: living in the present. The next morning, the monk took Lam to a nearby stream that meandered through the forest. The crystal-clear water flowed gently over the rocks, creating a soothing melody. The monk asked, "Do you see this stream?" "Yes," Lam replied. "It's very peaceful." The monk smiled and said, "Your life is like this stream. The water flows only in the present moment. You cannot hold onto the water that has passed, nor can you rush the water that has yet to come. But if you pay attention, you will see the beauty of each drop in this very moment." Lam was taken aback. He had never thought of life in such a way. The monk continued, "Your anger and anxiety stem from clinging to the past or fearing the future. If you learn to live fully in the present, you will find the peace you are seeking." Practicing presence. The monk guided Lam to sit by the stream and taught him a simple exercise. "Close your eyes and focus on your breath." The monk instructed, "Breathe deeply through your nose, feeling the air fill your lungs, and exhale slowly through your mouth. Do this without thinking about anything else, just focusing on the sensation of your breath." First, Lam struggled. His mind kept wandering to unfinished work and past mistakes. But the monk reassured him, "It's okay. Whenever your mind drifts, gently bring it back to your breath." After a while, Lam began to notice a difference. His thoughts started to settle, and a sense of calm spread through his body. He opened his eyes, looking at the stream, and found that everything around him seemed more vibrant and alive. The monk smiled and said, "That is the power of the present moment. When you are fully here, the past and future lose their grip on you." Lessons learned. The present is all we truly have. The past is gone, and the future is yet to come. The only moment we can truly live in is now. The breath is a doorway to the present. Whenever you feel overwhelmed, focusing on your breath can bring you back to the moment. Observe rather than react. By becoming aware of your emotions without judgment, you regain control over them. The dawn of peace. That evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Lam sat quietly by the stream. He felt as though he had found part of the answer he was seeking. Though anger and anxiety still lingered, They no longer had the same power over him. He realized that by living in the present, he had opened a door to a new world of peace. And so, Lamb's journey had only just begun. Lesson 2: Mastering the Mind. After discovering the serenity of living in the present, Lamb began to observe his inner self more clearly. However, he noticed that even when he tried to focus on the present, negative thoughts often crept in, disrupting his peace. Frustration and regrets about the past, as well as fears for the future, still held a strong grip on his mind. One morning, Lamb approached the monk and asked, "Master, I've learned to focus on the present, but why do these negative thoughts still haunt me? How can I stop them from taking over?" The monk smiled and led Lamb to a forest path. They walked silently until they reached a large, ancient tree. The monk pointed to the sky and asked, "What do you see up there?" Lamb looked up and replied, "I see clouds, Master." The monk nodded. "Exactly. Your thoughts are like those clouds. They drift across the vast sky of your mind. You don't need to cling to them or try to chase them away. Just observe them. Over time, they will pass on their own." Observing instead of clinging. The monk explained further, "Your mind is vast, like the sky, but you often mistake the fleeting clouds, your thoughts and emotions, for who you are. That's not true. Thoughts and emotions are temporary. They only have power over you if you hold on to them." Lamb was puzzled. "But how can I stop myself from thinking about past mistakes or worrying about what's ahead? These thoughts seem to return no matter what I do." The monk replied, "You don't need to stop them. Instead of resisting, learn to observe them. When you recognize that a thought is just a thought, it will lose its power over you." Practicing mastery over the mind. The monk taught Lamb a practice for dealing with negative thoughts and emotions. When a strong thought or feeling arises, ask yourself 3 questions. The monk instructed, "Is this thought true?" Often, negative thoughts are exaggerated or based on assumptions. "Is this thought helpful?" If the thought doesn't serve a constructive purpose, let it go. Is there a more compassionate way to view this? Try to replace the negative thought with a kinder, more understanding perspective. The story of the overflowing cup. To illustrate this lesson, the monk shared a story. A renowned scholar visited a Zen master to learn from him. The scholar bragged endlessly about his knowledge and accomplishments. While they talked, the master began pouring tea into the scholar's cup. He kept pouring until the cup overflowed. Startled, the scholar exclaimed, "Master, the cup is full. Why are you still pouring?" The master calmly replied, "This cup is like your mind. It's already full of opinions and assumptions. How can I teach you anything if you don't first empty it?" The monk turned to Lamb and said, "Your mind is the same. When it's full of negative thoughts, there's no room for peace. Learn to empty your mind and allow peace to flow in." Lamb confronts his anger. That afternoon, while helping the monks prepare a meal, Lamb accidentally dropped a bowl. The loud crash drew the attention of another monk, who scolded him for being careless. A surge of anger rose within Lamb, but instead of reacting, Lamb paused, took a deep breath, and asked himself, "Is my anger justified? He's only upset because I made a mistake, not because he dislikes me. Does this anger help? No, it will only make things worse. Can I approach this situation more compassionately? Maybe he's tired, and I can simply apologize." As Lamb reframed his thoughts, his anger subsided. He smiled and said, "I'm sorry for the trouble. Let me clean this up." The simple act of pausing and reflecting not only diffused the situation but also made Lamb feel calmer and more in control. Lessons Lamb learned. Thoughts are just thoughts, not reality. They come and go like clouds in the sky. Our role is to observe, not cling to them. The mind is bigger than emotions. Recognizing this helps us avoid being controlled by fleeting feelings. Compassion is transformative. Approaching situations with kindness, both for yourself and others, can turn conflict into connection. Calmer mind. As the sun set that evening, Lamb sat under the same ancient tree, watching the clouds drift across the sky. He realized that his thoughts and emotions were no different from those clouds. They could appear, but he didn't have to hold on to them. The monk approached and said, "You did well today. Your mind, when observed correctly, becomes your greatest tool for finding peace." Lamb smiled, his heart feeling lighter. He understood that mastering the mind wasn't a destination, but a journey that required daily practice. Lesson 3: The Power of Breath. On the third day, Lamb woke up feeling different. While he had made progress in calming his mind and living in the present, he still found himself overwhelmed by intense emotions at times. He wanted to learn how to manage those feelings when they surged unexpectedly. During breakfast, Lamb approached the monk and asked, "Master, even though I am practicing mindfulness, there are moments when my emotions still take over. What can I do to calm myself in those situations?" The monk smiled gently and led Lamb to a quiet lakeshore. The water was still, reflecting the soft hues of the rising sun. The monk gestured toward the lake and said, "Do you see how calm the surface of the water is?" Lamb nodded. "Yes, Master, it's peaceful and steady." The monk continued, "Your breath is like the water. When emotions stir you, your breath becomes turbulent, short, and erratic, just like water during a storm. But if you learn to calm your breath, you can still the storms within your mind. The breath as a bridge." The monk explained further, "Your breath is the bridge between your body and your mind. When your emotions are out of control, your body reacts first, your heart races, your muscles tense, and your breathing becomes shallow. If you learn to control your breath, you can send signals of calm to your body and mind." Lamb asked curiously, "But how can I use my breath to calm myself when emotions are strong?" The monk taught Lamb a few simple breathing techniques that could help in any situation. Breathing techniques for calmness. Diaphragmatic breathing, belly breathing. Place one hand on your chest and the other on your belly. Breathe deeply through your nose, letting your belly rise. Exhale slowly through your mouth, feeling your belly fall. 4-7-8 breathing technique. Inhale through your nose for 4 seconds. Hold your breath for 7 seconds. Exhale slowly through your mouth for 8 seconds. Box breathing, square breathing. Inhale for 4 seconds. Hold your breath for 4 seconds. Exhale for 4 seconds. Pause for 4 seconds before repeating. By focusing on your breath, the monk said, you will find that your mind naturally begins to settle, just like water returning to stillness after a ripple. The story of the cracked vase. To illustrate the power of breath, the monk shared a story. There was once a cracked vase that felt useless because it could not hold water properly. But one day, the owner noticed that water leaking from the crack nourished the flowers along the path. The vase thought it was broken, but in truth, its flaw created beauty and life. Your breath is like that. It may seem simple, even mundane, but when used correctly, it brings life and calmness to everything around you. The story left Lamb thoughtful. He realized that even something as basic as breathing could become a powerful tool for transformation. Lamb faces his anxiety. Later that day, Lamb found himself overwhelmed with anxiety about the future. He thought of the large orders waiting for him back at his workshop. What if I can't finish them on time? What if the customers aren't satisfied? These thoughts swirled in his mind, threatening to overtake him. But instead of letting the anxiety grow, Lamb remembered the breathing techniques. He sat down, closed his eyes, and began practicing the 4-7-8 method. As he inhaled deeply and exhaled slowly, he noticed his heartbeat slowing, his muscles relaxing, and his thoughts becoming less chaotic. After a few minutes, the storm of anxiety had passed, leaving behind a sense of calm and clarity. Lessons Lamb learned. The breath is a powerful tool. In moments of emotional turbulence, focusing on your breath can help you regain control. Emotions are not the enemy. They are signals from your body. Instead of fighting them, use your breath to understand and soothe them. Calmness resides in the present. By connecting with your breath, You anchor yourself in the here and now, where peace is always available. A sunset reflection. As the sun set that evening, Lam sat by the tranquil lake, observing its stillness. He marveled at how something as simple as breathing could have such a profound impact on his state of mind. The monk approached and said, "You found your breath today. Remember, no matter how strong the storm, your breath will always guide you back to peace." Lam bowed deeply, gratitude filling his heart. He now knew that the key to managing his emotions lay in something as simple and ever-present as his own breath. Lesson 4. The Power of Compassion. After several days of practicing mindfulness, controlling his thoughts, and finding calm through his breath, Lam felt a sense of progress. Yet, there was one lingering emotion he struggled to overcome: resentment. Lam harbored anger toward those who had wronged him in the past, and despite his best efforts, these feelings continued to weigh on him. One morning, Lam approached the monk and asked, "Master, I've learned to calm my mind and control my emotions, but I can't seem to let go of the anger I feel toward those who've hurt me. How can I free myself from this?" The monk gazed at Lam with compassion and said, "You will never find peace if resentment resides in your heart. Compassion is the key to setting yourself free." What is compassion? The monk led Lam to a tree that had weathered many storms. Its branches were scarred and twisted, yet it stood tall and vibrant. The monk pointed to the tree and said, "This tree has endured fierce winds and heavy rains, but it doesn't blame the storms. Instead, it uses the scars to grow stronger and nurture new leaves." Compassion, the monk continued, is not about condoning the actions of others. It is about understanding that everyone carries pain and struggles. When you realize this, you'll see that your anger only deepens your suffering. Compassion allows you to heal and grow. Practicing compassion. The monk guided Lam through a practice called loving kindness meditation, metta, to cultivate compassion. Start with yourself. Close your eyes and repeat these phrases silently. May I be happy. May I be peaceful. May I live with ease. Extend compassion to loved ones. Think of someone you deeply care about. Picture their face and silently say, "May you be happy. May you be peaceful. May you live with ease." Include neutral people. Now bring to mind someone you don't know well, like a shopkeeper or a passerby, and send the same wishes to them. Send compassion to those who hurt you. Finally, think of someone who has caused you pain. This step is the hardest, but also the most liberating. Say to them, "May you be free from suffering. May you find peace. May you live with ease." The story of the cracked cup. The monk shared another story to help Lam understand. There was once a cracked cup that felt ashamed of its flaw. It thought it was useless because it couldn't hold water perfectly. One day, the owner of the cup said, "You think you're broken, but every time you leak water, you nourish the flowers along the path. Your crack creates beauty. Likewise, the people who hurt you may act out of their own pain and flaws. Instead of holding onto anger, try to see the beauty that can come from forgiveness and understanding." Lam confronts resentment. That evening, Lam sat in meditation and thought about a former colleague who had betrayed his trust. In the past, thinking of this person would fill him with anger and disappointment. But this time, he tried to practice the loving kindness meditation. As he visualized his colleague, Lam initially felt resistance, but he gently reminded himself of the monk's words, "Everyone carries pain." Slowly, he began to wish his colleague peace and freedom from suffering. Though it wasn't easy, Lam felt a weight lift from his chest. The anger that had burdened him for so long began to dissolve, replaced by a sense of relief and lightness. Lessons Lam learned. Compassion heals both the giver and the receiver. By extending kindness to others, even those who have wronged you, you release yourself from the grip of anger. Forgiveness is a gift to yourself. Letting go of resentment doesn't excuse others' actions but frees you from their control. Compassion starts with understanding. Recognizing that everyone experiences pain helps you respond with empathy instead of judgment. a heart full of kindness. The next morning, Lamb noticed how much lighter he felt. He realized that practicing compassion wasn't just about forgiving others. It was about freeing himself. The monk approached him and said, "You've taken an important step. Compassion is like water that softens the hardest soil, allowing flowers to grow. Keep practicing, and you will find peace not only in yourself but in your relationships with others." Lamb bowed deeply, gratitude filling his heart. He knew that compassion would guide him through many challenges ahead. Lesson 5: The Power of Gratitude. After days of learning to live in the present, master his thoughts, control his breath, and practice compassion, Lamb felt that his life was beginning to transform. However, he noticed something missing. He realized that he often focused on what he lacked or had lost, instead of appreciating what he already had. This left him feeling restless and unsatisfied. One morning, Lamb approached the monk and asked, "Master, I've learned to let go of anger and embrace compassion, but why do I still feel incomplete? It's as though I'm searching for something I can't find." The monk smiled knowingly and replied, "That's because you've forgotten one of the greatest gifts in life: gratitude. Gratitude is the key to realizing that everything you need is already within you." The meaning of gratitude. The monk led Lamb to a field where the morning dew sparkled like jewels on the grass. Pointing to the droplets, the monk said, "Do you see these tiny drops of dew? They're small and easily overlooked. But when touched by the sunlight, they shine brilliantly. Gratitude is like that sunlight. It reveals the beauty in even the smallest things." Lamb was intrigued. He had never thought of gratitude as a way to illuminate life's simple joys. The monk continued, "When you focus on what you don't have, you'll always feel lacking. But when you're grateful for what you do have, you'll discover that life is already abundant." Gratitude doesn't change your circumstances, but it changes how you see them. Practicing gratitude. To help Lamb cultivate gratitude, the monk suggested 3 daily practices. Gratitude journal. Every evening, write down 3 things you're grateful for. They don't have to be big. Perhaps a kind word, a tasty meal, or the warmth of the sun. Over time, you'll notice how much good surrounds you. Mindful gratitude. Throughout the day, pause and find something to appreciate in the moment. Could be your breath, a beautiful flower, or the sound of birds. Expressing gratitude. Show appreciation to those who've helped or supported you, even in small ways. A simple thank you can brighten their day and yours. The story of the beggar. To illustrate the power of gratitude, the monk shared a story. Once, a beggar sat under a tree, complaining about his misfortunes. A wise man approached and asked, "If I gave you 1,000,000 coins, would you sell me your eyes?" The beggar replied, "Of course not. My eyes are priceless." The wise man smiled and said, "What about your hands or legs? Would you sell them for 1,000,000 coins each?" The beggar shook his head. "Then you are already a millionaire." The wise man said, "You just haven't realized it. Instead of lamenting what you don't have, be grateful for the treasures you already possess." The story resonated deeply with Lamb, who realized how often he overlooked the gifts in his own life. Lamb discovers gratitude. That evening, Lamb sat by the light of a flickering candle, reflecting on his day. He decided to try the gratitude journal the monk had suggested. He wrote, "I am grateful for the serene sunrise I witnessed this morning. I am grateful for my hands, which allow me to create beautiful pottery. I am grateful for the monk's teachings, which have brought me closer to peace." As he wrote, Lamb felt a warmth spread through his heart. He realized that even in the midst of challenges, there was so much to be thankful for. Gratitude began to fill the empty spaces in his soul, replacing restlessness with a sense of contentment. Lessons Lamb learned. Happiness lies in appreciating the small things. Joy often comes not from big achievements, but from recognizing life's simple blessings. Gratitude shifts perspective. Focusing on what you have rather than what you lack reveals the abundance already in your life. Gratitude is a habit. Like any skill, Gratitude grows stronger with practice, becoming a natural part of daily life. A heart full of light. The next morning, Lamb walked through the village with a renewed sense of appreciation. He noticed the cheerful greetings of the villagers, the aroma of fresh bread wafting from a bakery, and the warmth of the sun on his skin. Each moment felt like a gift. When the monk asked, "How do you feel today?" Lamb smiled and replied, "I've realized that I already have everything I need. What I was missing wasn't more possessions, but gratitude to see what I already have." The monk nodded approvingly. Gratitude is the light that reveals life's beauty. Keep nurturing it, and your heart will never feel empty again. Lamb bowed deeply, feeling a profound sense of peace. Gratitude had become not just a practice, but a way of life. Lesson 6. Turning challenges into growth. By now, Lamb had learned how to live in the present, master his mind, calm himself with his breath, practice compassion, and cultivate gratitude. Yet, as his time with the monk drew to a close, a lingering fear surfaced. He worried about whether he could apply these lessons when he returned to his life in the village, where challenges and pressures awaited. One morning, Lamb approached the monk and said, "Master, I feel that I've learned so much, but what if I fail to practice these lessons when life becomes difficult again? How can I hold on to this peace when challenges arise?" The monk smiled and replied, "Lamb, peace is not about avoiding challenges. It is about learning to face them with strength and wisdom. Challenges are not your enemy. They are your greatest teacher." The story of the sharpened sword. The monk took Lamb to a corner of the monastery where a blacksmith was sharpening a sword. Sparks flew as the blade was pressed against a rough whetstone. The blacksmith worked patiently, grinding the blade until it gleamed. The monk pointed to the scene and said, "Do you see this sword? It cannot become sharp and strong without the resistance of the stone. Your mind and soul are the same. They are shaped and strengthened by the challenges you face." How to transform challenges into growth. The monk shared 3 steps to help Lamb turn difficulties into opportunities for growth. Pause and reflect. When you encounter a challenge, don't react immediately. Pause, take a deep breath, and ask yourself, "What can I learn from this?" Reflection transforms problems into lessons. Shift your perspective. Instead of seeing obstacles as burdens, view them as opportunities to grow. Every mistake is a chance to improve. Every hardship is a test of your strength. Act with a calm mind. Only a calm mind can make wise decisions. Don't let emotions like anger or fear drive your actions. Use the techniques you've learned, breathing, mindfulness, and gratitude, to steady yourself before you respond. The story of the farmer and his horse. The monk shared another tale to illustrate the lesson. A farmer had a horse that ran away. The villagers said, "What bad luck!" But the farmer replied, "Maybe so, maybe not." The next day, the horse returned, bringing a herd of wild horses with it. The villagers exclaimed, "What good fortune!" But the farmer simply said, "Maybe so, maybe not." Later, the farmer's son tried to tame one of the wild horses and fell, breaking his leg. The villagers said, "What terrible luck!" But the farmer replied, "Maybe so, maybe not." Soon after, soldiers came to the village to recruit young men for war. The farmer's son was spared because of his injury. The villagers said, "What amazing luck!" But the farmer still said, "Maybe so, maybe not." The monk concluded, challenges may seem good or bad at first, but with time, you will see that every event has its own lesson. Trust the process and stay open to what life teaches you. Lamb faces a challenge. That afternoon, Lamb was tasked with carrying water for the monks. As he worked, a younger monk accidentally spilled water on Lamb, soaking his clothes. A flicker of irritation rose in Lamb. But he paused, took a deep breath, and remembered the monk's words, "Pause and reflect." He asked himself, "What can I learn from this?" Lamb realized that this was a chance to practice patience and forgiveness. Instead of scolding the younger monk, He smiled and said, "It's all right. Let me help you clean up." This small act of understanding not only diffused the tension but also made Lamb feel calm and in control of his emotions. He saw firsthand how challenges could become opportunities to strengthen his inner peace. Lessons Lamb learned. Challenges are opportunities for growth. Difficulties are not roadblocks but stepping stones toward becoming stronger and wiser. Perspective is everything. How you view a situation determines whether it feels like a burden or a lesson. A calm mind leads to better outcomes. When you approach challenges with clarity, you respond wisely instead of reacting impulsively. Stepping into the world. As the sun set, Lamb sat quietly, watching the golden hues fade into twilight. He realized that life would always bring new challenges, but he no longer feared them. Instead, he felt prepared to face them with courage and wisdom. The monk joined him and said, "You now understand that peace is not the absence of challenges, but the ability to face them with grace. Keep practicing what you've learned, and no storm will shake your foundation." Lamb bowed deeply, gratitude overflowing in his heart. He was ready to return to the village, not as the same person who had left, but as someone stronger, calmer, and more compassionate. Returning home, the day had come for Lamb to leave the monastery and return to his village. As he packed his belongings, he felt a mixture of emotions: gratitude for the lessons he had learned and a lingering uncertainty about how he would apply them in his daily life. Would the peace and wisdom he had found on the mountain endure amidst the challenges of his old world? The monk accompanied Lamb to the edge of the monastery's grounds. "Remember," the monk said, "peace is not something you carry. It is something you create. No matter where life takes you, the tools you have learned will always be within you." Lamb bowed deeply, thanking the monk for his guidance. With a steady heart and a clear mind, he began his descent down the mountain path. The village revisited. When Lamb arrived back in his village, everything looked the same: the busy market, the pottery workshop, the familiar faces of his neighbors. But Lamb knew that he was different. The lessons of mindfulness, compassion, gratitude, and resilience had transformed the way he saw the world. It didn't take long for Lamb to encounter the challenges of his old life. On his first day back at the workshop, he faced a difficult customer who criticized his pottery harshly. In the past, such comments would have triggered anger or self-doubt. But this time, Lamb paused, took a deep breath, and asked himself, "What can I learn from this? How can I respond with compassion?" He calmly listened to the customer's feedback, offered to make adjustments, and handled the situation with grace. The customer left satisfied, and Lamb felt a deep sense of accomplishment, not from avoiding conflict, but from managing it with wisdom and kindness, spreading the light of peace. Over time, Lamb began to share the teachings he had learned at the monastery with others in the village. He taught his workers simple breathing exercises to help them stay calm under pressure. He encouraged his friends to keep gratitude journals, sharing how this practice had changed his perspective. He even organized small gatherings where he told stories about compassion and mindfulness. As Lamb's influence grew, the village itself began to transform. The once tense and hurried atmosphere softened. Neighbors started treating one another with more patience and understanding. Lamb realized that by changing himself, he had started a ripple effect, spreading peace to those around him. The final story: the candle's flame. One evening, as Lamb sat in his workshop, he thought about the monk's final words: "Peace is not something you carry, it is something you create." He remembered a story the monk had told him. A traveler once carried a single candle while walking through a dark forest. The light from the candle didn't chase away the night, but it illuminated the traveler's path. Along the way, the traveler met others carrying unlit candles. Each time, he shared his flame, lighting their candles without diminishing his own. Soon, the forest was filled with light. Lamb realized that his journey to inner peace was not just for his own benefit. By sharing his light, he could help others find their way out of the darkness. Lessons Lamb took home: peace begins within, the tools to create peace: mindfulness, gratitude, compassion are always available to us, no matter where we are. Growth is a journey, not a destination. Challenges will continue to arise, but each one is an opportunity to deepen our wisdom and resilience. The light you carry can ignite others. By living with peace and kindness, you inspire and uplift those around you. A new chapter. As the sun rose over the village the next morning, Lamb looked out at the bustling streets with a calm and steady heart. He felt ready to embrace the new challenges and opportunities that awaited him, knowing that the peace he had cultivated was not fragile but enduring. In his heart, Lamb carried a silent promise to the monk and to himself to live each day with mindfulness, compassion, and gratitude, and to share the light of peace wherever he went.